Hello everyone, and welcome to another video covering IB Math grade 9. This is the second video for our third unit, which is about linear functions. And like we said in the first video, linear means a straight line. So we're doing everything related to straight lines. In this video, we're going to cover two things, and these are the distance formula and the midpoint formula. Now, everything we're doing in this unit, by the way, is just understanding how to get different types of information about a straight line. That's it. Okay? So with the distance formula, what we're really doing is just knowing and learning how to get the distance between 2 points on our Cartesian plane. So just if we look here, we have 2 points. I've already connected a line between them, but sometimes the line might not be there at all. Okay, but you'll be given 2 points. So my first point is A, and A has coordinates -1, 2, and then point B has coordinates 4, 5. Okay, so before we get into the formula, why don't we just try to use our own common sense, our own logic, and our past knowledge that we covered in the previous video to get the distance on our own. And then you'll find out that the formula itself doesn't say anything new. It just says what we already know. It just might look a little different. Okay, so how about we just turn or make a triangle with the line that we have right now. Okay, and we'll make a right angle triangle. So, which means I'll just draw a line here, and then a line here. And then what do we have? We have a right angle triangle, right? So, for our right angle triangle that we just drew, this line AB, so I'll call it line AB. Line AB is nothing more than our hypotenuse. And we already know how to get the length of a hypotenuse using the Pythagoras theorem, correct? And what does it say? It says h, hypotenuse, equals square root of a squared plus b squared. The lengths of both the two other sides of the triangle. So what's left here to do is, can we get the lengths of the other sides? Well, let's take a look at the graph. So what we need, we're calling this, let's say this side A and this is side B. Can we know the lengths of these sides? Of course we can. So we can get the length for these sides in a couple of ways, in 2 ways. The first way is just by looking at the graph. If we drew the graph exactly right, then all we need to do is just count the squares. So we'll count the squares first for the A side, okay? So 1, 2, 3. So the side A has length 3. We'll do the same for B. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B equals 6. The second way we can get the lengths of those sides, is by using our coordinates. So this is part of the new material we're learning. And our coordinates here, they have the x and y. The x and y coordinates that we can use to get the same answers that we got for A and B just now. Okay, so let's try it. First, we're going to do X. So if we think of the X values, they're going to be related to this horizontal distance here. Okay, so if we do, and let's call xy, let's call the A coordinates x1, y1 so that we don't get confused, and we'll call the B coordinates x2, y2. Okay, just to avoid confusion, because now we have two sets of coordinates. Now all we need to do is do x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1. That is going to give us exactly the same numbers that we got just by looking at the graph for A and B. So let's try it. x2 is 4 minus x1 is minus 1. Now here's the little trick. Minus 1 is already a negative number, so I'm going to put it in a bracket here. And what happens is, if I want to remove that bracket, both negative signs smash into each other and they make a plus sign. Okay, so it's 4 plus 1. It ends up as 4 plus 1. Okay, so I didn't draw the graph accurately, and again, that is, it's something that can happen, because what should be here should be 5 squares. Between these two, if I had drawn it correctly. So that's, oops, my bad. And then we'll do y2 minus 1 y1, which is 5 minus 2. That gives us 3. And x2 minus x1 gives us 5. So these are correct values. Okay? Now the second thing we need to do, after we got our distance, our A and B, is just apply the formula, the Pythagoras theorem. So we'll say my hypotenuse now, the distance between the 2 points, is square root of 3 squared plus 5 squared, which is the square root of 9 plus 25, which is, what is 9 plus 25? It's 34. We can do that on our calculator. And that would give us what would that give us? Hold on. 5.83. That's to 3 significant figures. There's a lot more decimal numbers, I just don't write them. Okay, so our distance formula basically is telling us the same thing, but all into one formula. So everything we just did into one formula. It's saying the distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 also squared. So it's exactly the Pythagoras theorem we know, but instead of A and B, we are imagining that we have 2 coordinates this time, not just lengths that are given to us, but 2 points given to us, and we're using their coordinates to get the distance between them. Okay? Now the second thing I want to talk about is the midpoint and the midpoint formula. Now what is a midpoint? For any straight line on your graph, the midpoint is the coordinates that cut this line exactly into two equal parts. Okay? Now that initially, if you just want to think about it, it might not be easy to just immediately know what the midpoint coordinates are. But the formula itself is very simple. Okay? So what do we do here to get the midpoint? Well, all we do is we add, so again, I'm using the same coordinates here, A and B. Okay, x1, y1, x2, y2. So to get the midpoint of AB, I'm going to add the coordinates this time. Okay, so I'll add the x's together. So 4 plus, again, I'll just write -1 in brackets first, and then I divide their sum by 2. Okay, and I'll do the same for the y coordinates. So I'll say 5 plus 2 divided by 2. And that immediately will give me the coordinates of the midpoint. It's a much simpler thing than the distance between 2 points. Okay, so let's do that together. 4 plus -1, when a plus and a minus are there next to each other, it becomes a minus. The minus is stronger than the plus. Okay, so it's 4 minus 1, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So 3 over 2, and then 5 plus 2 is 7, divided by 2, 7 over 2, and that's my new coordinate. I could write it in decimal form, that's fine also. So could be, so it's 1.5 and 3.5. Okay, now the formula says for any 2 points, the midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. And that's it. I'm going to stop this video here. Take your time. We're getting into the heavy stuff of the unit, the important stuff. So take your time, watch this again, practice it before you move on to other things. Hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.